Good afternoon, everybody. This is Cass Green, and we want to welcome you to Community Impact through Creative Arts and Cultural Engagement. We're really excited to be a part of the PACDC Forward Equitable Development Conference Conversation 2 workshop, and I'm going to turn it over to Jerry Puryear, who is one of our co-presenters this morning.
How are you doing today? Again, welcome. We're so happy to be here, and we're so happy to have you here. Today, the presenters will be Ms. Cassandra Green, to my right, co-founder of MCCP and founder, also CEO of Fine Arts Through Our Eyes, as well as myself, Jerry Puryear, Fine Art Through Our Eyes artist and artistic director. Also, we have Eli and Lou Bevins, founders of Eli and Lou Entertainment. So today we would like to, or we will attempt to take you on a journey of our beginnings until now. Community impact through creative arts and cultural engagement. Workshop topics: community impact from within, community engagement and development. Art Bus, amplifying art as the launch pad for the community engagement. Capacity building and impact. Connecting the dots, lessons learned through storytelling of the Fato Art Bus acquisition. Embracing creative capital innovation. Communal asset mapping, trauma and healing centered arts, grassroots sustainability, capacity building and its challenges. Where to start, steps to identifying, assessing, growing, and leveraging your creative, cultural, and social capital. Growing together, strengthening our networks to increase our capacity.
So our beginnings, right? So basically, Mill Creek Community Partnership is literally 15 years old now. And we actually were started to be an arm out of the church down the way. We were looked at in our visionary thought that we needed a way to be able to touch the community without like having any barriers, right? That people would have access to hope through this nonprofit that wasn't, so to speak, like a denomination of anything. And so that's how Mill Creek Community Partnership started. And a part of it was to really serve as a catalyst for change in the areas of community engagement, economic development, arts and culture, quality of life, and just really be an accessible program that was free and available to the Mill Creek community. Over time, you know, what was great about it was we started out in this building. It's located over on 4624 Lancaster Avenue and was formerly known as the Mill Creek Art and Cultural Center, which when we arrived there, the center was not having any activity. But the interesting thing was when we went into the building, it was a 20,000 square foot building that was kind of defunct. But the woman that showed me the space when we got there, her name was Mrs. Doris Wynn. She said, we used to be really vibrant and really doing great things within the community, but everybody got old and there wasn't a succession plan in place. And so it was somewhat defunct. And so when we walked in there, we just saw dreams of possibilities there. And so I was actually challenged to start an art class because I'm an artist, right? I'm an artist. At that particular time, I was working at the Institute of Contemporary Art with the University of Pennsylvania. And my mentor, he challenged me, he said, why don't you try to start an art class for the youth in the neighborhood? And so I'm always ready for a challenge. And basically, we started there, I have to say, with the help of an amazing artist and educator. He's gone on to transition. His name was Vaughn Stubbs. We put our heads together and we created Fine Art Through Our Eyes. And it was really just for the community youth. And so it was a respite where the kids could come and they could be there, they could be their authentic selves, and we could really uplift the artists of color because that was very much of interest to us. And also through the lens of contemporary art, they wouldn't feel restrained or held back because they weren't like what we consider fine artists, right? Because a lot of our communities intersects with art really is around like what's perfect and what's at the PMA, or, you know, really traditional works of art. So the contemporary lens lended the program to be something unique.
So our mission at MCCP is to provide a safe, creative, stimulating, and accessible environment where individuals are encouraged to explore, find, and contemporary art through a variety of mediums, while exploring, amplifying, and supporting artists of color. And our process is FATO. So FATO workshops are designed to be accessible and to promote creative expression for all ages, voice healing, community cohesion, personal and collective empowerment at its core. Our core curriculum incorporates art appreciation through uplifting artists, cultural bearers of color, vocabulary enrichment, and social emotional skills with trauma-informed lens. Participants are able to transfer knowledge and lessons learned upon completion. So Eli and myself, we're co-founders of Eli Lou Entertainment. And we started out, we were actually part of one of the first classes for Fine Art Through Our Eyes, which was 15 years ago. I can't believe I just said that, but 15 years ago, we started out as artists in the program. So just take you through a small journey of one being some of the students that first came through this program. Is, you know, when we were raised by our grandparents, and after our grandfather had passed away from lung cancer, she didn't know what to do. So she had took us to Fine Art Through Our Eyes with Ms. Cass, and we were in that program for several years with our siblings as well. And that was sort of, you know, I can honestly say that was sort of one of our first voices that we felt like we had through artistic expression. And in a sense, we were talking about the lens of trauma. My grandma didn't know what to do because, you know, we were silent. We didn't really, you know, talk as much. And that was one way we were able to be artistic and express ourselves. Right. And to this day, we are still on that journey of, you know, the arts, whether it's sort of morphed into graphic design or film. We're filmmakers. And just having those lens, artistic and humble beginnings to come through that community that sort of, in a sense, raised us up. We were raised by the village, an artistic village at that. Everything that we are now is in part to our upbringing and meeting people that came through that program. So I'm gonna play a quick video, which actually shows us 15 years ago in the Mill Creek Cultural Center. This, I believe, was our closing ceremony the first closing ceremony that we had there.
Endow some institution. It is my personal commitment and commitment of this church that what happened to this building will never happen again. We will endow this building. We will make sure that if nobody give, that this building will always be here. We're on a capital building campaign fund to purchase this property and purchase this land to make it an institution in this community. So in the next, from January 1st to April 1st, we have committed ourselves to raising $100,000. We're going to do it. So now, if we're going to fry chicken, we're going to fry it for a purpose. If we're going to have a luncheon, we're going to have it for a purpose. It's so that we can establish a place in our community where our kids can come. The reason why we started off doing art programs is because something occurred to me that somebody is trying to steal our children's creativity. Somebody took their music. Because you know what our kids don't do is they don't play instruments anymore. They'll spin records, they'll scratch. But somebody took our kids' music. They don't play instruments. There's nowhere, you don't see any music stores, there's no violins, there's no trumpets, there's no pianos. I've made a commitment to give our kids back our music. Music is a very important part of who we are as a people. And so we have to bring the music back. That's their voice, that's their way of expression. I might not be able to do anything about what my mom and pop going through, but I can blow it out with this trumpet, or I can play it through my fingers. What you've seen is the first of artistic expression coming out of our community, and you can see how.
So as you can hear, even 15 years ago, the mission of MCCP and the church down the way was always to allow the youth in the community to have a voice, to have an outlet. You know, there's a lot of things that goes on in society. And this just gave us an opportunity to be creative, to take our minds away from whatever was going on. And it gave us a voice. And so, you know, getting back to the arts and jumping to the present, is that if it wasn't for these type of opportunities when we were youth, I don't think we would be the people we are today. And I don't take that lightly. It's truly a blessing to have a village behind you supporting, even if it's not a family member. So Find Out Through Our Eyes recognizes a few things in the community that needs additional, I guess, support for youth and whatnot. And we just talk about community impact from within. Through MCCP's Find Art Through Our Eyes Community Arts Initiative, MCCP is recognized, as Eli said, as a premier engagement, cultural barriers, and creative placemaking leaders. Throughout the years, we've had 45, FATO has been graced by 45 artists and hundreds of workshops, and continues to, you know, commit itself to inclusion and reclaiming spaces, amplifying voices through creative expression, and honoring our very own. In addition to that, it's also preserving history, right? When we look at a lot of the things that came before us, if no one's preserving that history, then the generation that's coming up behind won't know that history or that legacy of what once was. And so that's one of the things, you know, regarding community impact, that's very important.
So this is my opportunity to talk about how I started out with the program. It started out personal for me. I was dating my Miss Cassandra Green's daughter, my current wife right now. And we had went on a date, but it was chaperoning some young kids from Philadelphia, was what I was told. And it was incredible because you know, I had a great opportunity to spend a lot of time with the kids and get to know the kids, and also share the fact that they had never been to New York or had never been to the museum that we visited in New York. I felt, you know, a little bit of those nerves as well, you know, not having experienced New York and its museums as well. So we shared that lens, or I tried to relate to them with that idea. Just venturing out and experiencing new things, and knowing that there's new things out there, things that could stimulate you and open up your mind to new possibilities and new experiences to be had as well. And that's what we talk about. We talk about the community impact from within, talking about building a relationship, talking about understanding the community, understanding the people, knowing their likes and dislikes, knowing their strengths and weaknesses by building relationship, working together. Also, personally, I'm an artist. I like to do abstract art and portrait art. Being the director of FATO gives me opportunity to express some of the directions that I take in creating my art and developing my art, and attaching a narrative and understanding myself through my art. So I am big in Christianity, so to speak. I try to put in the principles of Jesus Christ into everything that I do, especially my artwork, especially when Miss Cass and I go into different neighborhoods and experience different people in different communities. So as I have been with Find Out Through Our Eyes, I've seen it grow exponentially. I'm so proud to be a part of that process. We have ventured out to various places in Philadelphia, to name a few, Promise Zone communities such as Kensington, Northeast, Center City. Over 80 partnerships we've had in our careers. Since its inception of Fato, we have been graced by 45 teaching artists, and we're so proud of collecting all these relationships that we can, that we have built upon, and we are continuously building upon, so that we can build our capacity, build our power for impact. Because it's not about, you know, yourself, you know, it's got to be a group effort. That's how you maximize your strength. And so we're so proud to have that as one of our rules, or one of our guiding principles. And we're really big on community engagement, just expanding the experience and expanding your relationship.
Yeah, and also, you know, a part of Fine Art Through Our Eyes is like, we've always been committed to accessibility, creativity, and, you know, we want to always honor the excellence that's in the hood, right? A lot of times people come into neighborhoods and communities and they feel like there are saviors, or that they're bringing us something, and not capitalizing and honoring and uplifting the idea and the principle that the neighborhoods that we live in, we operate, we work and play in, has great assets. It's full of that. And we always want to honor that and be totally open to new ideas, new changes. And we feel like that everybody has a place to enter in. You know, it doesn't matter where you are, what station you are in life, whatever you got going on. That's the beautiful thing about community arts engagement, is that the power is that there's a space for everybody to enter through the creative process. And most importantly, what happens usually is the people who say we're not artists, or I'm not creative, or I don't like to draw, they're usually folks who come out and do the most amazing work, or offer in their authentic selves, that we find out something about them and build that relationship. But they also have the experience to find out a little bit more of who they are. So that's what we really like appreciate, and we get really hyped and excited about, when the awakening is for that individual through the creative process, and they leave owning that, and then they go share it with other people.
And I love what she just said. We go to the people that are kind of deemed the forgotten or the lost people, you know, people that people normally don't do. We go and do them because, like I said in the beginning, we have there's a special place in our hearts for the people that are overlooked. Because personally, my experience growing up, feeling insecure and being an introvert, it only was a means for a spiral to go downward as far as going into myself, not communicating with others, not sharing with others. And without communication and sharing, I had less of value for life. So I was always struggling, trying to find value in life whenever I practiced being insecure, or I allowed my insecurities come in to where I was introverted, and I would refuse to speak and to open myself and to experience different concepts from different people.
Yeah, we also find out a lot of times too, and I think Eli and Lou can testify to this along with Jerry, is that a lot of times people are creatives, but they have barriers that, like, they may feel like, and I know this happened to me when I was younger, is that art isn't considered like a viable living, right? Or like, I know it has a lot of implications with males who tend to draw back and away from it because there's some connotations associated with art, or it's not a serious way of life, right? And so we try to always make sure that we honor that space of life. A lot of what Fine Art Through Our Eyes expansion program is to bring these collectives of artists together so we can build economic capacity also, right? Because we want to be able to have our artists work go to the auction houses, and Eli Lou will talk about that a little later. Like, how can we get into the marketplace so that the ones who are in our communities that are creatives can level up, make a living, take care of their families, and have an equitable life through the arts. So that's really a core part of our mission now. And, you know, a part of that Mill Creek Cultural Center, eventually we want to develop a cultural center that's framed around innovation and industry and the arts. So that's like our big giant idea and vision that's gonna happen. We're 15 years in, but it's gonna happen. That there'll be like a mecca for creativity, expansion, and economic development for folks who are creatives.
So we're trying to make big community impact from within. We kind of liken ourselves to Star Trek. We go to the places and the people boldly going where no one else wants to go. We break through barriers, limits, biases, and personal and creative restraints. As a matter of fact, let's talk about the art bus. We're so excited to have the art bus. Actually, let's take a tour.
So yeah, Jerry's gonna take you on the tour of the art bus. I'm not sure if you're in the chat, if you've ever experienced the art bus, give us a thumbs up or a high five. We've kind of like moved from just being in Mill Creek and the Promise Zone communities to Philadelphia proper.
Hey, Ms. Cass, and Jerry comes back on. Do you want to continue to just talk about the art bus?
Okay, yeah. So basically, Jerry is outside and going to give you a little tour throughout the art bus. But basically, it was designed as an art and meeting room, and it's retrofitted, like Jerry said, from a retrofitted airport shuttle bus. And so the exciting thing about the art bus for us is that it was formerly a part of the Philadelphia Assembled Futures Atmosphere, which was a big show, a citywide exhibition about 2 years ago. And so what happened was MCCP wanted to go in, and we always had the idea to retrofit some type of vehicle that we could be mobile. Okay, so we have Jerry now. So he's going to give you a tour of the art bus. And so, like I said, originally it was a meeting space through Philadelphia Assembled, and it was a part of the Futures Atmosphere. But then the show was getting ready to be over, and during that period, we connected with Traction Company and Sadakio, who is the creative genius behind retrofitting the art bus. And so Jerry, if we have volume from him, he's giving you a tour. So basically, you can see we have all our supplies on the bus.
So if Jerry talks, it'll pop up there. Jerry, can you?
Okay, so you not finished on the bus now?
No, well, I can do it real quick.
Okay, go ahead.
With this.
You won't be able to hear me anymore. Okay, go ahead.
All right, so let's try this again. Let's take this. So this is our lovely art bus. We love it so much. As I stated before, it's a E350 Super Duty Ford. It seats about 10 students. The interior is retrofitted as a classroom. We have storage bins on either side that also double as benches. And we have storage in the back for chairs and tables and things of that nature. All right.
I think it's turned the other way. Mhm. So basically, on your tour, yeah, I would think I was mentioning before Jerry gave you the tour on the interior of the bus. Basically, yeah. So basically, we wanted to really share an Uplift traction company in Philadelphia. If anyone is familiar with them, it's actually a group of artists who are graduates from PAFA, and they all come together as a collective. So again, when you talk about impact from within, that's an example of that. They're located in West Philadelphia on 41st and Haverford. Well, they were. And that's an interesting story in itself, but that's the Traction building, which was formerly a trolley depot. And so they do this great work around fabrication, and they work as a team. And so Sadakio was already working with Philadelphia Assembly, and we wrote a grant to LISC for creative placemaking, which give LISC a shout out. And, you know, LISC really talked to us about, like, we don't understand, what do you mean you want to buy a vehicle and fix it up? Do you know how much money that's going to cost? But then what happened was we had to have community partners in order to do this grant. And so our community partners were ACE After School Program, St. Ignatius Nursing Home, and Traction Company, all of whom we had worked for and had relationships with. And then in talking to Sadakio and Traction about this idea and this vision and dream to retrofit this vehicle, Sadakio was like, hey, I'm working with Philadelphia Assembled, and one of their programs is talking about making this portable meeting space. And so, you know, he introduced us to the people, the curator, Jana, who is from the Netherlands, and the PMA team and the artists. And it was a match made in heaven. And what happened was we got the grant. Liz, I got to give Melissa and them a shout out at Liz. Liz was so supportive throughout this process. And what happened was, with us being able to work with PMA and Philadelphia Assembled, when the exhibition closed that December, they were like, well, what are we going to do with this thing? And so we said, well, guess what? We got money, which was an awesome experience for us. And so we were able to say, we'll take this on. We have these funds that we can use for insurance, upkeep, sustainability of the bus. And what was the most exciting thing about it in terms of leveraging was that was $8,000 we had budgeted to buy a bus and retrofit it. We could redistribute those funds to programming because we had a bus that was already like retrofitted. And so that was kind of like all those things aligning from within so that we could build our capacity and do even greater work. And, you know, as we always say, we always want to honor where we come from. The idea that we're still honoring the Philadelphia Assembled exhibition, which took, I think it was 3 years in the making, that it still lives through the work we do in the community and the Futures atmosphere and all those involved in that workshop. So we have some photos of Sadakio over a Traction Company. I think the little guy in the little purple shirt, he was at a pop-up event. We did a big festival up on 52nd Street. And so building that relationship set us up to be the grantees of this wonderful gift of the art bus.
And having the art bus is so awesome because it gives us mobility. We're able to have limited restrictions if there is any or any. We can meet people wherever they are. We are flexible. We have equipment. We have materials. Although we appreciate donations and appreciate partnerships, we have a lot of resources that we tap into.
And we're not confined by four walls, right? We used to be really confined. A lot of times when we went places like to schools, you know, we would have difficulty being able to access space, or, you know, some places don't want paint all over their floors, or just programming in, and we don't have money to always be able to pay for space to do our workshops. And so we basically break down those barriers. Like Jerry said, you know, we're like Star Trek. We could bust up in the parking lot vacant lot. We go to police stations. We have that, flexibility to be able to just take it to the streets. And I mentioned that to Jerry this morning, is that the idea, a lot of times we think of outreach as we do a program and people come to us, right? People always come to us. But real outreach is about we take it to them. Like that's when you can get down in the real nitty gritty and do it block by block, person by person, and place by place. I think we have a question here, and I'm going to just answer it now. Ms. John Callis. It says, are you able to use the art bus now during this COVID time? Have outside activities? So yes.
Yes, actually, we've been working pretty hard. Right in front of us are tables with a bunch of different packages that we've prepared. The package is COVID approved, so to speak. There's no direct contact with any of our stuff. We have a system where we can give out a package within a Tupperware bin, and each package will go in a Tupperware bin, and each package will include directions, materials, all the things that you would need to create or do a workshop by yourself at home or wherever.
Yeah, and so what we tried to do is because we're outside, and a lot of the conditions with COVID right now is being outside. We can come to your front lot. We can come if you block your street off. We want to make sure it's always under 25 attendees, but we can do more intimate events. And like Jerry said, we make sure we have our gloves, we have masks. We even bought masks to give the kids, right? A lot of times the kids don't have masks, but we have masks now that we give out to the kids.
I think.
We'll go back to that one. Yeah, so, COVID, actually, we're trying to figure out how COVID cannot put any limitations on us. We're actually going to be doing some workshops down in West Philly, where we'll bring the art bus into some of the play streets.
Ms. Cass, there's another question. In terms of youth involvement or leadership, how do you build upon that and strengthen it?
So I think you and Jerry can answer that question better than me, because you are our youth empowerment and leadership, right?
Absolutely. And we didn't overlook that question. We just have a section for it. So
okay. So we'll come. If you want, yeah, we can do that.
Do you want to come back to it?
Okay, you guys go ahead.
Let's do it. Let's just go right into it, ladies.
Yeah. So I think just to touch on that, and then I know you have a section we can just go more in depth with it. But I think with youth environment is allowing them to have a voice and seeing what else they're interested in when it comes to the arts. A lot of times, a lot of our school systems don't have the type of art programs they once had as far as equipment. I know when we were in school that was the case, and so finding an outlet such as Mccp, Fine Art Through Our Eyes, we were able to get access to that. And again, speak our voice. We had a voice then. We had our truth came out, our pain came out into our art. So I think how to expand on that is always asking the youth and getting their opinion and feedback. When we do these workshops, whether it's on the art bus or just somewhere else in the community, is and I think Jerry's very good at that, being able to connect with the youth and getting their feedback and opinion. There's a lot going on in society. There's a lot of anger and steam that people need to let off, and so rather doing that out in the streets. You come to MCCP, Fine Art Through Our Eyes, the church down the way, and they inspire you through the arts and keeping that connection. So one of the things Ms. Cass did with us, here we are again, 15 years later, we're 30 years old now, it was more about art. It was also about that communication, that mentorship, that networking. So she built upon it, and then you plant those seeds, and then you're able to grow from there. So I just wanted to touch on that, but we can talk more about that. Jerry, I'm going to swing it back over to you.
Excellent. And being naturally an introvert, it was hard for me to find value in partnerships with other artists or just developing a relationship. But through this program, I was able to see that, first of all, in order to build that relationship, you have to come from a humble place. You have to come from a place where there's no preconceived notions or assumptions, and offer yourself truly the way you are, with no coverage or no apologies or anything like that. Just come from the heart, basically. And so I learned that when I started teaching classes, I was nervous and I was insecure. But seeing and receiving the positive responses from students during the first classes, and the openness and willingness to learn from me and the respect that they had for me, it made it easier for me to have respect because I was already grateful. I was grateful that people were giving me attention, and I was grateful that people appreciated the work that I put into my craft and my artistic journey. And so I understood early on the power and the relationship of being on one plane. Like, there's no hierarchy in this thing, you know. We, first of all, we open ourselves to all ages. We've done from little kids all the way to seniors in the same setting. So we are big on succession. We are big on the future. And so it's obvious that the kids will be the next in line. So if you really believe in the cause that you're fighting for, you can't try to hold it on and make it like it's only yours and no one else can share it with you. You got to share it with the next generation. That way it can live longer. So now let's transition into our art bus, The Story. We have a video to play.
So we're still unable to play the video. I don't know if
I might be able to play it. Let me see if I can share the screen. Let me see. And if I can go here.
Another thing that we like to do when we set up shop is we have a button making machine, and that's pretty popular. So we always invite kids who are really, really interested and like to touch a lot. We always try to invite them and teach them how to use this button making machine. And with teaching them, we give them an opportunity to teach and make buttons for other people that come up in the setting as well, wherever we are at. So that's been something that's been very popular. The kids love it. You give them a task and they feel good about the task. They own the task and they become the task.
So I'm gonna play the video. Here you go.
But shut it down. We got some people who don't want to leave. What you want with that? You want to tie it off? And then I get straight to work. I'm helping her out.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Jerry and Eli Lou. And so we're going to transition into our area we're calling Connecting the Dots. But I just would like to give space and honor to Jerry and the twins, because I look at myself as a succession. I look at myself. Yeah, thank you, Jerry. So basically, I look at myself as a successionist. And so through succession, you can really create preservation, and you can increase your network and just make your net worth, right, in terms of social capital and creative capital. And so in terms of connecting the dots, we really want to think about these areas as we, look at, a lot of times we think that we don't have money. Money is nice, but we can make things happen. And most arts agencies, grassroots agencies, we basically can make a dollar holla. And there's a lot of value to what people can bring to the table. A lot of the workshops that we do within Fine Art Through Our Eyes is done with found objects. We've done the most amazing projects with found objects or discarded things, or just finding ways to keep going in and being even more creative as we go along. Like we feel like we were doing kind of creative placemaking before creative placemaking became a terminology, right? We already had to do that. We didn't have an option. And so a part of connecting the dots is thinking about accessibility, expansion. You know, I talked about space limitations. A lot of times you have to go through red tape to get permits, get permissions, things like that. We look at ourselves as guerrilla artists and engagement team, and we go to these uncharted places. So basically, we already talked about that. Our vision was to have a portable classroom. And it's interesting now that through the work of the Art Bus, a number of agencies are starting to implement mobile classrooms, music classes. Somebody's doing like a pop-up computer lab, Playmobiles, things like that. Like, how can we be portable? Again, instead of having people come to us, and it's really changing now, right? With COVID, we have to use technology just like this workshop, but also we have to go to where people are and we have to adapt. We want to break down barriers and expand our reach. So I already mentioned before that it's about the partnerships, right? Like, who would think that an after-school program, a nursing home, and a big arts collective could all work together to make something happen? Like, those are your, what do you call them, unusual suspects, right? How did that all came to be? And a great museum. Like, that was the biggest thing for us, is like, we're literally partnering with the Philadelphia Museum of Art. If it had not been for that exhibition and the connections that Sadakio made with us, we may not have ever had the opportunity to get this free bus, right? So, you know, it's so important as we think about how do we connect our resources, our assets, our residents. Most of our work, we only pay artists. Our executive team does not get a salary. We basically commit to paying artists and our volunteers, if we can, a very equitable wage. You know, that's one of my pet peeves, is a lot of times what we do is we ask our artists to do things for free all the time, and that they need to be honored and sustained so that they can, you know that they have value and worth. It's not just, you know, what they bring. We also need to give back and see into our artists. Our residents also are a critical part of our work and in connecting the dots. So that experience lends itself to, a lot of times we do workshops, for example, in the school, and we wanted to do a crocheting class. Well, one of the residents she knew how to crochet. So she came in and she did the crocheting class with our students. And, you know, first of all, she had never did it that way, and she was so excited about the opportunity to share her gift. We had another gentleman, Mr. Walt, who made signs for Mill Creek Garden. You know, people can get excited. We draw them out so that they can then bring their gifts to the table. It's so important to honor the fact that everyone has something to offer. That's what my mentor taught me. Even if it's folding a napkin, if you fold a napkin good, that has use and purpose in our work and in our lives. Here's some pictures we just wanted to share of how we, you know, just make sure we engage the residents, our students, and community. So basically, we have here is, this particular slide is some children on the bus, and they're doing an amazing workshop Jerry developed. And we also do these healing and trauma-informed workshops now. And so this particular workshop is around color and moods. And how does that make you feel? Like with the children, like both Jerry and Eli Lou expressed how being young, they didn't know they had voice and that they could express it. So we're starting out just letting people know, like, what colors do you like? Those things all apply to how you express yourself. So we incorporate that into our workshops. And In terms of expansion, I think we talked about that, but we just really want to make sure we honor the space of our expansion process. As we said before, we started out with like Mill Creek. Just the kids were amazing in the area. It was funny, like the kids would even come over to the art classes, like if their parents were chasing them or somebody was chasing them, they would come into the building just to find a safe space. So we can definitely attest to that. And also that, I know the twins used to talk about it a lot. Although it was a dilapidated building and people, it was like dirty and falling apart, and we're gonna correct that. But I remember the twins, we would say, "Where are the twins?" And they would be upstairs in the building looking around and dreaming. And that was beautiful that we could invoke the dream in our children and in our community. So it's not just about taking them outside to see great things like at the Studio Museum in New York or the Fabric Workshop Museum or ICA and all these beautiful places that they could explore, but also there was beauty and honor and great capacity and dots within our neighborhood, like the Teberino Museum, the Paul Robeson House. Back then we had October Gallery. So we wanted to always let them know where you live at is awesome too. I don't think that this isn't worth something. It has value and worth where we are, and then we can explore and appreciate what's outside. So if we can move along to It's Bigger Than Us. We have a video that we want to play, and it's just a video kind of showing the scope of our work in a visual form. So thank you so much. So we just want to lift up that Eli Lou Entertainment. They are the filmmakers that do all our clips and videos. So if you're interested in talking to them more, their information is in the slide, but they made that branding materials for us in terms of the impact of the work we do in terms of connecting the dots and capacity building. And I just wanted to lift up we wanted to lift up Karen Smith, who is, she's a percussionist and drummer, and she goes all over the city. You may be familiar with her. We also had, let's see, we had some other folks in here. I just wanted to honor that come out and work with us. So we have music, we have drummers, right? Ellen Tabarino, who is really exciting for us to work with. She did a wonderful tile project with us because that's her medium. She lives right in West Philly. Her name is Ellen Tabarino, and she actually is the daughter of Ellen Tabarino, who was the very first person we ever honored through our artist presentation in our curriculum. And Jerry's going to talk about that more. But Ellen Tabarino lived on 38th and Hamilton, and that's her daughter who works with us with Fine Art Through Our Eyes. So that's another way of connecting those dots and building our capacity and impact from within.
We also had the pleasure of working with Brujo de la Mancho, Ken McFarland,
Ryan
Bazemore. There's a whole host of names. Fine Art Through Our Eyes, we not only focus on encouragement, upliftment, and empowerment, but we also are dedicated to excellence in education. We like to encourage the individual so that they can be their best, but we also want them to be able to understand artistic principles and concepts so that they have a true appreciation of art and so that they can grow instead of just giving them compliments and thinking that, you know, that's all there is to give. So we do a holistic approach where we go from the inside of the person to the outside. Through the Art Bus and on-site FATO initiatives, we not only provide portable art classes to a diverse audience, which includes seniors, healing arts and trauma-informed workshops. We pop up at food cupboards, community days, libraries, shelters, expungement clinics in and around Kensington and surrounding neighborhoods all throughout Philadelphia. And we focus also on crime reduction.
So I just want to answer, we have a couple of more questions in the chat, and it's kind of related to the Art Bus, and it's from Pam. Hi Pam, how you doing? And so basically you wanted us to talk about how we fund and manage things like insurance and maintenance for the bus. So basically what we do is we do apply for grants, and our insurance is not that expensive. We have to pay for insurance for the bus, but we also have to pay for insurance for our artists when we go out and do the work. And so that is one of the ways we do through grant funding and also through individual and friends donations. So we're really able to leverage that. And what we started doing was, if we work with outside groups that do have like budgets, because a lot of times our grassroots agencies and police districts and community groups may not have larger budgets, we do those workshops pro bono. But folks that have budgets that can pay, we do have a scale fee that we charge them. And we basically don't charge them to make money. We just charge a fee to cover our insurance, maintenance, pay our artists, and get the upkeep of the bus, the maintenance of it. I think the other question is about our biggest challenge for our work. Right now, our work is trying to understand what this world is going to look like post-COVID, and figuring out how we're going to get the most bang out of our buck and really not let it deter us from pulling back from what we've been called to do. We feel as though the work that we do, we're on assignment. And so we're going to press through. It's a challenge in all areas, and that because we are experienced and go into uncharted territory, then we should be able to transition and be flexible pretty quickly. Like the pivot we made that was the conversation, right, Jerry? Mm-hmm. How do we do an art class now that you can't have everybody share the crayons or share the markers like we used to do? We love that, right? People sharing materials and things like that. We can't do that anymore. So I'm not sure if we're on camera, but like, are we on camera? Can you guys see? We started putting the glue in these little containers. we took the paint and put it in a container. Things like that, thinking about like how we can just individualize the lesson plan. And like Jerry talked about, we have a core curriculum which includes an artist presentation that is uplifting and art appreciation of artists of color. We have vocabulary incorporated into our curriculum, which means that each project, if we're talking about a mass project or maybe a collage project, then we'll share information about Romeo Bearden, who was a collage artist. And then we have a hands-on activity, which is the workshop, and then a reflection, like what did you get out of it? And the main thing is, if you can do it, you can take it somewhere else and duplicate it somewhere else. And so those are the core principles of our workshops. Let's see, did we answer all Pam's questions? And we can talk about, we're going to talk about the partnerships in the community as we transition into our mapping area, if that's okay with everybody.
And also our contact information is towards the end of the slide as well.
So out of capacity building, we're transitioning in, you know, we talked a lot about it. It's bigger than us, right? Nobody can do this work alone. What I found out over the years, and especially with the Mill Creek Art and Cultural Center, the seriousness and the impact of not having succession planning. And I believe the question was about how do you incorporate leadership from within, and especially with our young adults and our youth, right? That's what happened. You know, no one made the plan for that. And then as the building started to deteriorate and funding sources dried up, we walked into a shell of a space that it looked like ghosts were there. The skates, the roller skates were there. The art classes materials were there. The music equipment was there. And it was like, it was just suspended into space. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that was so provoking that I carry that with me everywhere I go. And so I'm always, anybody I hope that knows me, is I'm always trying to lift up and push up and elevate the next generation or the 2 generations forward. Like Jerry said with the button machine, after a certain moment, if you're 9 or 10 years old, you can work the button machine. We put everybody to work. We don't care. Like,
lower than 9 as well.
Yeah, we put everybody to work because we want you to be empowered to know that you have that space to be in charge of your own destiny. And so that idea of bigger than us, we just wanted to share. We love your questions. We hope that you're, you know, feeling good about this presentation. And what we want to do is give you a moment. And this trailer that you're going to see is from a full documentary. It's on YouTube. It's called Mill Creek Past, Present, and Future. And we just wanted to get you centered around, you know, how it's bigger than us, right? And so we're going to share this with you. And it's 3 minutes, 46 seconds. I'm hoping that you'll be able to join us with this. Basically, I have to lift up Eli Lou. They did this with us in collaboration with the Preservation Alliance. But the interesting thing about this trailer is that the movie and the trailer is from 2013, and here we are in 2020, and you can hear the voice of the people from the community. So Eli Lou, if you would mind playing this would be good, and we hope you can go with us into It's Bigger Than Us and how do we use our assets in our community to make change and impact through the arts.
I think it's important to share these memories in order to make sure the younger generation has an idea of what was. It'll show ownership. It'll show that there was something that was very legitimate. It was structured. It was influential, and it laid a foundation for what they see, even though in some layers it looks decayed. But the whole idea is that it is / now was ours. What they might see now was not always what it was.
Once neighborhoods begin to change and buildings begin to be lost, the record of what happened is gone unless it's documented and recorded somewhere.
One of the biggest things affecting this area now is blight, meaning that there's no structure. We got, maybe on every block, we got about 15, 20 abandoned homes or tore down homes. Over here, our neighborhoods look like an old witch's mouth with teeth missing.
When children live in a clean environment, they do better.
Poverty, slow progress.
The deterioration across the neighborhood took place because of social problems, economical problems, and political problems.
The crack epidemic lost everything. It destroyed the whole neighborhood.
We had the Lex Street Murders, the greatest and most horrific murders in the history of the city.
We just have to get to them, and we have to go back to the beginning, because right now they're forgetting their past.
If you don't know your history, you really can't plan your future. And I think preserving history, in fact I know, is a lot of work. It doesn't come easy, and it's a responsibility.
You know, we just want to do more for the community, stuff that when we were little, we never dreamed about doing. None of us.
We went through a long period of change.
But back then, I mean, we were little things thrown at us at community meetings because they were like, the housing authority? Heck no, we don't want the housing authority to come in here and do anything.
I think it's going to get better.
Instead of us waiting for someone to come in from the outside to help us, people began to take more ownership of where they live.
We're the voice of the community.
We're building hospitals for people who are dying. We're building jails for people who have already committed crime. Let's build some facilities to help prevent those things from happening.
We see that people are getting involved more and more. They care about their community, they care about their neighborhood.
Mill Creek would be a destination place for arts, culture, education.
People are getting together, bonding, wanting to do things, to build new things, to create new neighborhoods, new relationships.
And it all starts with work. The only place you'll find success before work is in the dictionary. You got to put the work in. And if we put our work in, we'll get the results.
All right, so that was the trailer for the Mill Creek documentary, Past, Present, and Future, from 2013. It now has about almost 50K views now. But just to touch on what Ms. Cass talked about earlier regarding when we were in the Mill Creek Culture Center, and when we were younger and we saw everything frozen in time, from the skates where, you know, it was dust, but it was a line of skates that were sitting there. There was a desk with photos still there. And so I remember at that moment, it just was like, it felt like a movie, like we were frozen in time. And I start imagining the different things that happened here, the history. And so fast forward to 2013, we were about 23 or 24 at the time. And when she first brought the idea to us, we were on board because I wanted to know more about the Mill Creek community. Even though in the research, there wasn't much online about Mill Creek, which was fascinating because there's so much history here, right? My grandparents also grew up in Mill Creek, in the Mill Creek area. And so it was fascinating to capture that. And so when we talk about community impact, right, it's also about preserving that history so that the next generation knows what was there, and that they can also honor it, and they can also respect the music, the culture, the dance, and all of those individuals that came before them. And, you know, growing up, all I used to see was the blight in Mill Creek, right? And I wondered what happened here. And that's the story people want to go with. They don't want to tell you about the culture, the history, the people that lived here, the stories, the families, the art. And so preserving that was really important. And it was a community effort. We couldn't do that. We couldn't have done this documentary without the community. You know, all of the stories came together. It was very difficult to find things online, but as we started to talk to community members, and this was a community effort, people start sending in photos, people start telling us stories. And the amazing part was watching it line up. You know, all the stories lined up, and you heard one person talk about this part. And so editing became easy because we allowed the community to tell their truth. So I just wanted to touch on that about partnership. You know, this is Mill Creek Community Partnership. And so with our company being able to be a part of this, and I think this is one of our most earlier projects when we first began filmmaking before we decided to be Eli Lou Entertainment. This is one of our earlier projects. And again, it showed that you could do a lot with a little. We didn't have much at that time. So I just wanted to touch on that in preserving the history of Mill Creek. And amazing enough, if you go back to the area, a lot of the stuff we filmed is no longer, right, it no longer looks like that. And so going to graduate school and coming back to Philly after taping this, I think, you know, after a couple of years, everything was different. And I was like, wow, thank God we moved when we did, because what was once there is, you know, it's not there anymore. So I just think that was an important message to share. This is definitely another layer to Mill Creek community partnership. It's not one thing. Just being able to, you know, be creative in different realms. So, you know, we're moving into filmmaking where we can tell our own stories. You have art, and it's, you know, a growing form. But I know Ms. Cass touched on the building we were working out of. Actually, if I go back to a few slides, if I can find it. While she's looking for that, there was a question that says, how do you expand your partnerships within the community? And I know James Cass can also touch on this more, but I think that it starts there with you know, doing that networking. And Mill Creek Community Partnership has always been about partnering with other organizations in the community. Yeah, so I was touching on the building that Ms. Cass talked about when things were sort of falling apart. This screen is, I believe, a day where it was, the insides weren't, you know, we weren't able to really go on the insides, or it might have been the lights were out, or it was raining or whatever. But if you look at this picture, we were very much still in tune to what, you know, we were there for. We didn't care if it was leaking on the inside, or we were outside. As you can see, we're sitting outside of the building, because community is less about the place and location, more about, you know, who's there and why you're there. But so this is sort of like the heart of Mill Creek. The idea when I look at this picture is that community is what we were there for, and the building, you know, is a blessing to have, but to be able to have, you know, that community that can wrap their arms around us, that's definitely something that we can get. So the Mill Creek community, the Mill Creek documentary is a reflection of what Mill Creek is doing in the community and where it's going. Right. So hopefully that answered the question of about how do we expand. And again, at the end, feel free to reach out to Mill Creek Community Partnership, and we're always looking for partnerships and other opportunities to connect with the community.
And also on expanding, I'd like to highlight Miss Cassandra Green, because this is her life. She has her finger on the pulse, and she's a student, and she's a fan of this whole situation, nonprofits, and all of the things that it encompasses, placemaker, all these things. This is what she lives, eats, sleeps. She does this all the time. She takes naps, and she wakes up and she answers emails and researches information. So we have a great leader. We have a great example of how to go low, how to go humble and respect one another so that we can work together.
Yeah, thank you guys. You know, I'm always humbled to work with you guys and all the other residents and community and children especially. I just want to honor also the fact that when the twins, it's funny in that clip when I watched it the other day, I literally live in one of those dilapidated buildings. So that's a big deal for me, right? Because like it was dilapidated. It was an old rug factory. And little did I know, by participating in the community and living within the community and being a part of the life of the community, that, you know, I would one day live in that very building after it has been renovated. And I love my apartment. Like, I live right across the street from the Mill Creek Rec Center, where we do art classes at inside. My church is right there. You know, just I can see the movement and the change over the years, and I get to experience that in my, you know, my personal life. But I just wanted to also acknowledge that Mill Creek isn't the end all and be all. What I've learned by being in Kensington and Mantua and other areas, the Mill Creek story is every community story. It's the story of the people, places, and experiences. So yeah, I've learned that, like, this story could happen in Mantua, it could happen in west southwest. It's a story that's waiting there to be told in each and every community. So we're going to transition just for the sake of time, because we wanted to do Q&A. I wanted to make sure everyone has something to take with them, and I'm hoping you can get this slide presentation. But we talked about creative and cultural asset mapping. And so that's what we do when we talk about partnership development, connecting the dots. How do you build your capacity? How do you approach challenges? Get around things, you know, figure things out. This is kind of like a formula we use a lot. And so we look at our relationships. If there's a common goal, and that comes from those common goals, knowing what they are from the people that you work with, and also what do the residents want? What does the community want? Alignment, remember we talked about the art bus, like it aligned, the list application, being with Traction, all of that, the Philadelphia Museum of Art, all of that aligned to leverage those assets so that we could build our capacity. So this is just a really simple workshop worksheet that I included. You don't have to fill it out now, but I would also encourage you that when you move into this space, I'm a very strategic planning type of person, but then there's times when I really need to just step back so that I can be creative and let my true self come out. And so encouraging you to close your eyes, doing a definitely 1, 2, 3 of silence to center yourself, taking your breath in. And I usually try to take in a breath of intention and honor. And then I release it with expectation. And then you can visualize your sources and connections, right? And then this is the most important part, to make them real, write them down. Don't forget, write them down. It doesn't matter if it's spelled right, if it's scribbled, it's on a napkin, write it down. The power of writing it down makes it real. You can come back to it. And it may not happen right away, but I can guarantee you, writing it down can lead to the manifestation. So we are going to transition, and we can do it together, right? We really wanted to give you space that you could ask questions, comments. Eli Lou is here to respond to you. Jerry is here. I always love to fall back and let them move up. And I'm looking forward to hearing your comments and questions and things like that. So we wanted to leave room for that space. I think we may not have asked, let's see, Karen, Pam had a question. Oh, can you talk about a challenge? Oh, what's our biggest opportunity we see in the face of adjusting for work post-pandemic? That was a question from Pam. Twins, you wanna respond to that, and Jerry?
It's another opportunity. You know, we don't see problems as just problems, but we see them as opportunities. So it's another opportunity and reason to get more familiar with the people, to develop the relationship so that we can start asking questions, so that we can communicate and understand what's going on and how we could facilitate or help.
Right. To add to that, I think what Ms. Cass is touching on is sometimes when things happen, this is a very unfortunate situation. With COVID, it changes a lot of things, right? And unfortunately, we have to do a lot of things virtually. However, it does also allow us the opportunity to connect with individuals that may not be in the community, which to us kind of expands the mission and the goal. So, trying to look at the situation that we're in the most positive outcome, maybe there's another purpose or goal for us to try to reach more individuals and to bring other youth in communities into the arts. So I think it's just challenging us to shift, to get comfortable with being people and being able to reach people where they are still. I always say, make the situation work for you, especially during this time. At first, we were kind of down about a lot of things that we couldn't do this year that we foresaw, before everything happened and went south. But there's always a blessing in the storm. So just being able to identify what that is and keep moving is definitely something we adopted during the time. So,
yeah, I mean, and for us too, with our trajectory already, like it's kind of like we're built for this moment, right? We already go out there and feel like give it, bring it on, just kind of bring it on. It's a challenge, and we want to figure out a way to make it work. Like, I wish you could have seen us trying to figure out how to make these kits, and we have about 12 different kits that we're working on to get them out to the community and play streets and just block so that the kids could have some activities. We cleaned out our storage unit to make sure that we could erase this moment. I think we have some other questions in our chat. Oh, who's this beautiful artwork behind me? You find us, is Jerry. Go ahead.
This is my artwork, and it's it's basically there's an article called "Lost Lives, Young Lives Lost: Black Youth Behind Bars." So I thought that article was very inspiring and intriguing. So I pretty much covered the whole surface of the canvas, which the canvas is actually repurposed from old window blinds.
She said, could you hold your piece up?
Oh, could I hold this piece up?
Can you hold the camera?
Let's see.
No, hold the camera.
Let's see if I can bring it in close.
Let's see. Can you see it now? All righty. You guys see it? Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
There you go.
So I was thinking about Jean-Michel Basquiat when I was doing this. I was thinking about Jesus Christ. I was thinking about the Bible. So the literature on here that I wrote in marker, paint, or pen is around scriptures showing the humility and the power of Jesus Christ, and how strong that power is, being humble, being able to take the humble road to gain more true power, and sacrificing, being able to go forth and sacrifice your comfort zone or whatever it is that you have going on right now. You sacrifice that to go to a people that needs you, and you humble yourself to the situation.
Thank you so much. Cool. Let's see. Thank you. So yeah, it's Jerry's information is at the last slide, and so is Eli Lou's information. I think we have another question.
Yes.
Do we take our art bus to other local recreation facilities? You betcha.
Yes, we don't discriminate.
Hit us up. We don't discriminate. And we also want you to know that, although, it was started out of a church, and, we have principles about spirit and Christianity, we don't distinguish about anybody. We do you. That's not a factor into entering the work we do in our space. We accept everybody, and people can come as they are. I also wanted to mention that our workshops, this particular time being pivotal And so awesome for us is that we were already incorporating trauma-informed principles and healing principles into our workshops. So for an example, I go to shelters, we go to recovery houses, we go to places where people may be having issues with drug addiction. We go there and we find that we can do healing and touch places that may not have been touched through art, like with Ken McFarland. He was able to take pictures and give people strength through their photographs and working with them. So we don't, we have no barriers in how we access work and how people can enter us.
And within trauma-informed care, within the healing aspects, we focus on seeing, touching, smelling, and hearing. So we do aromatherapy, we do touch therapy, we touch upon all of the senses. And to answer the question, yes, I'm a working artist. I like I said in the beginning, I do portraits as well as abstracts, and I'm open for all commissions, as well as layaway as well. We have payment plans as well. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So, I think we are at the end of our time. We wanted to make sure that you knew that I think we answered all your questions. And we are so grateful for this opportunity. Yes. Jerry, twins, you have any closing remarks?
Ladies?
No, go ahead, Jerry.
All right, so I'm just truly grateful for being in this place at such a time as this. I know this is a crazy time with COVID going on, but I'm truly grateful for being in this space, for being with Fun Out Through Our Eyes under Mill Creek Community Partnership, and having purpose in my life. So thank you so much for participating, for asking your questions and listening and receiving us. Thank you.
I definitely want to echo those sentiments. Thank you for this platform, and definitely thank you to Ms. Cass, Jerry, for continuing to get behind the community and provide all that you provide and all that you do for the community, and including us. Definitely appreciate this platform because platforms like this is how we further our mission. So I'm grateful as well. Again, to echo what partners here has said, this is what it's about, right? It's about allowing other individuals to have a voice.
Yeah, so we want to give our thanks and gratitude to PA CDC,
Yes.
Pam. You guys, Zakia, always having our backs.
Suzanne, thank you so much.
Suzanne, Garrett, we appreciate you. We look forward to connecting to you soon once again. And just reach out to us if you're interested in any of our programs or the Art Bus. Thank you.